One of the most popular manga magazine in the world is Shonen Jump. It only makes sense that this magazine would be home to some of the most well-known titles. But with every well-known series comes more unknown series. So in this series of videos, I want to talk about every Shonen Jump manga I've read and my thoughts on them. Of course, I won't be able to cover every Shonen Jump manga I've read in this one video, so I'm happy to say I will try to make this a series of Shonen Jump manga that I don't think are worthy or had enough chapters to have their own video. But with the introduction out of the way, let's get into the video. So in this one, I want to talk about the current big three, as we'll call it, which in my opinion and I think many others consists of Black Clover, My Hero Academia, and Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, some would argue Chainsaw Man should be a part of this. Some would argue there's another big three between Hell's Paradise, Chainsaw Man, and Jujutsu Kaisen. But I'm going to talk with the one that I think everybody can agree on, being Black Clover, My Hero, and Jujutsu Kaisen. So the first one I want to talk about, and probably the easiest one to give my thoughts on, is Jujutsu Kaisen. And I think, like everybody else can agree, Jujutsu Kaisen slaps. Although I don't think Yuji is the best protagonist ever, or even within the magazine. I still appreciate him a lot, and I think he's a great protagonist throughout the whole story, and I can't wait to see his development as we get more into the Culling games. I also really enjoy Megumin. I think he's probably a little cooler than Yuji, and honestly, this whole manga sidecast is great. Megumi, Yuta, Nobara, and Gojo, and even other characters. It's all just amazing. My one problem, though, is probably the start of Jujutsu Kaisen. But once we get past that, and I think basically from Gojo's backstory to where we are now has all been great, and I think it's showing off the talents of the mangaka. I also really enjoy the rough, more jagged art of Jujutsu Kaisen because in its own way it just looks amazing. And then, of course, let's address the elephant in the room, Shibuya Incident. It is probably one of the best modern shonen arcs. I will be honest there. Throughout reading the whole thing, it was just amazing, and the final moments were perfect. Also, I really enjoyed the Zenin family arc. I think that has been something that hasn't been talked about enough. As it was coming out, there was definitely hype surrounding these chapters, but now, about 30 chapters later, I see nobody talking about it, and it sucks because it was so entertaining, and I can't wait for anime people to see this. Overall, though, as much as I dislike the idea of the new big three because nothing will ever have the same impact as the original big three did, I'd definitely say Jujutsu Kaisen can make that boom, but I honestly don't think any of these three will, because there's nothing like the original big three. So now I want to talk about my least favorite of these quote-unquote new big three, and that would be Black Clover. I'm sorry to all you Black Clover fans, but it's just the hard truth, I don't like Black Clover. Throughout about the first three arcs, all the way up to the Witch's Forest arc, I loved it. I thought Black Clover was great. It was super fun, super entertaining. And then we get to the Night Exam arc, and that was entertaining. That was a great tournament arc. But we get introduced to a bunch of new characters and a bunch of new random powers. And I have no complaints about that. Bleach is my favorite of the big three. We'll get into that another time. But I don't mind that. But for some reason, when Black Clover does it, it just hurts because it feels like it has the potential to explain these powers through their grimoires, but they just don't. And then the Elf arc. Listen, I don't understand how anybody can enjoy this arc. In my opinion, it was garbage. People, and I hate to say it, but I have seen people actively say it's the best modern shonen arc, and I just full-heartedly disagree. I think the reveal of William being the bad guy, but then sharing a body with Noct, it just didn't work for me. Not Noct, apologies, Patry. And that's how forgettable Patry is. Patry came from nowhere. And although I do enjoy his backstory of why humans are bad to elves, it's annoying when your main antagonist of this arc is a demon, and I get the demon controlled the whole thing, but still, to me, it just wasn't entertaining. It just seemed boring asspull after boring asspull. The only part I think I actually enjoyed was when Charmy got, like, the wolves out and, like, I don't even think Charmy did anything. I can't remember. And this arc overstayed its welcome, being about 70 chapters or so. It just wasn't there for me. And then people are even saying that the Spade Kingdom invasion arc is good. No, there's still so much wasted potential here, and it's just not fun. That's the whole thing about Black Clover to me, is fun. The first 4 or so arcs encapsulate fun, just a good shonen. And I think, yes, it still does show off what a good shonen is, but in my opinion, it's not a good shonen. I don't know how that makes sense, but if you can agree with me, then please tell me. I just feel it's been going downhill ever since The Witch's Forest. The Witch's Forest was amazing, the Seabed Temple arc was great, the Night Exam arc was you know, it's just sad to see it go downhill, and the Spade Kingdom invasion, let me get back on track here, just isn't entertaining. The only good fight was Magna versus Dante, I think. And that's the thing, I love that fight, I love Magna, and I can't even remember who he fought. Of course, when the arc ends, sure, I'm probably going to go back and reread it, because I've been weekly with Black Clover since the anime ended. The anime ended, and I was like, oh, let me catch up to Black Clover, because I was about 30 chapters in, and I was just like, alright, whatever, let me catch up, see what the hype is. And then I catch up, and it's like perfectly the start of the Spade Kingdom invasion. And since then, I've been reading weekly, and it is just painfully boring. And so maybe my opinion is skewed because of the weekly release, and that's why I'm saying I will go back and reread it. But for now, the ass pulls that have been made throughout this arc, because let me say, some people need to fucking die, and they're just back, you know, and everybody's cool with it. The 3 antagonists that we have, who I don't even remember, have just been so boring. The whole arc is just unentertaining. It's not fun. It's not Black Clover. Because what made Black Clover fun was these crazy antagonists. But now we're just relying on these super powerful devils, and it's not fun. So in my opinion, Black Clover is the worst of this new big 3. And honestly, probably one of the worst things going in the magazine right now. But I continue to read it in hopes that maybe it'll reach the peaks it did for me in the past. And so for My Hero Academia, the obvious last one, let me lay down a little backstory here. It's 2018, and this is one of the first anime I've watched. Season 3 had just ended, and I want to see more, because it was great. And so I pick up the manga, and I read it. And I've been reading since. I catch up to My Hero in roughly 3 days after reading it. And ever since then, it's been my favorite out of this new big 3. Now, of course, I do think it has its bad moments, it has its average moments, but I think about the past 2 years, My Hero has been peaking like crazy with the Liberation War, and then everything just after that. Apologies for not knowing the arc names, but everything past that has been great, and even some early My Hero arcs were amazing. In my opinion, Deku's almost regression moments as a character, those were amazing. Those had me hooked on the story, dying to continue to read it weekly. And then even nowadays, with the reveal from one of the most recent chapters, if anybody knows what I'm talking about, I went crazy. That was amazing. So right now, My Hero is my favorite of the big 3. I think Deku, as much as people give him shit, or at least used to, I don't see it anymore. I see people appreciating Deku, and honestly, I'll be true right now. I didn't like Deku, man. I thought he was a crybaby bitch. But as we get more into the story, I enjoy him more and more. Now, my biggest problem, though, as much as I love Deku, our main character, Bakugo, Todoroki, the whole class, they gotta go. Listen, I don't like Bakugo one bit. I think Bakugo is annoying as fuck. He does his character great. He does the rival to Deku really good, and I think he's filled that role within the one fight they had. But past that, I think he's kind of dead weight right now. Now, am I saying I'm not going to give him a chance? No, I want every character to be great, but the sad realization is that there is so many characters in this class. Not everyone's going to get the shine. But besides the character department and having too many characters, I think My Hero is great. The art is amazing, and the story it tries to tell is perfect. And I love the fact that Shigaraki isn't really our last villain, and it's all for one. because that's the way it is. We know All for One is the strongest. Shigaraki was always just a tool for him. And although, if you asked me 2 years ago, I would have loved to see Shigaraki be the last villain. And I love Shigaraki. I think Shigaraki's a badass. But I've come to the realization through the most recent chapters, it's All for One. And I also love the antagonists of My Hero. If there's one thing Horikoshi can do right, he can write a great antagonist. And I'll be honest, right now, let's have a real moment. Sad Man's Parade, I teared up. That shit hit hard. Just everything to do with villains. I am glued to my phone, my monitor, whatever I'm reading it on. And it's sad that it's the opposite case when it comes to the heroes. Because the heroes, like I said, there's just an overabundance, and it's annoying. Now, I do enjoy some heroes, don't get me wrong. The ones that get more focus, like Endeavor, are awesome. But remember Fat Gum? The guy that was there for the invasion arc? I don't even remember the name of it. That guy? Yeah, he's gone. I mean, we saw him in one of the most recent chapters, but besides that, we haven't heard a word from him, you know? And I thought he was sick. And I bet there's other heroes. The Pussycats. Where have they gone? I mean, I know we've seen one of them, and I'll be honest, I don't even remember what happened to them. It was just so forgettable. But the villains, I love every single one of them. They're so cool. Even Shisaki, who I didn't really like, I still think he's amazing. So My Hero is easily my favorite of these big three, and it's sad to know that it will be ending soon. But I've enjoyed everything about it, and honestly, when back in the day, I used to give it shit, I love it now. So that's my thoughts on these new big three. I'm sorry the video wasn't that great. I didn't have a script. I didn't want a script. I kind of wanted to just talk about these series off the top and give the thoughts that I would give if you asked me about this. But that's going to be it. Sorry this video is a little longer. If you enjoyed, please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this series, hey, that's perfect. I want to make more of this. And if you have any Shonen Jump manga recommendations that you don't think I've read, drop them down below, because I'm always looking for more stuff to read. But until the next one, peace.